What's up, guys, and welcome back to the G-Ret Show. I'm G-Ret. Once again, it's Barcelona, and it does not look good. It looks terrible for Xavi. It looks bad for the club. Apparently, Xavi could get sacked for some of the words that he had in a press conference before the Almeria match, so we're going to touch on that, and it looks like the future of Deco is uncertain as well. I also want to touch on what we learned from the Almeria match, plus a couple more things regarding transfer rumors moving into next season, but I want to touch on what's going on with Xavi first, so let's get into that. So apparently in a press conference before the Almeria match, this is what Xavi said, and apparently it's causing a lot of problems and he could get fired, and this is one of the reasons why, so I'll try and paraphrase this. We're going to try and compete with Real Madrid. I think that the colors must understand that the situation is very different. Above all, on an economic level, we have an economic situation that's very different than it was 25 years ago. We can no longer go out and pick and say, I want this player, this one, or this one. We're not in the same situation. We don't have these types of conditions that other clubs with very advantageous economic situations have. Then he went on to say, the Barcelona fans have to understand it. That does not mean that we don't want to compete, but that's just Barcelona's situation at the moment. We need stability, we need time, but we will try to compete. So again, if you read between the lines, this is something you probably shouldn't say. It seems like he's kind of insinuating that Barcelona, they know they can't sign great players. They know they can't sign the best, but they're still going to try. And this is also almost like a slap in the face kind of to some of the transfers that they've made and some of the players that they have, basically saying, hey, we don't have the best players, but we're still going to try. When you're Barcelona and, as much of an unsuccessful run they've had in the Champions League for, a while now, kind of a lack of success I just seem they've had since Messi. From a historic standpoint, a very historic and elite type of club. And this isn't the type of attitude you have, because if Real Madrid was kind of going through some economic stuff, they're still Real Madrid and they have the mentality that I always say that they have the killer instinct. They're going to win at all costs, or at least at a bare minimum, they're going to try and give it their all, where, they would at least do the best with what they have. Barcelona, it seems like they're making excuses. This seems like an excuse, kind of like a cop-out, and it kind of attests to their lazy behavior and, the poor performances that they've had. I understand why he said it, but you can't say that as the face of Barcelona. It makes the club look bad. It makes it kind of look embarrassing. I don't know if this is the main reason why he would get sacked, but apparently he could be sacked. And, I guess this could be good news. This could be bad news. I think Barcelona needs a new manager. And there's some people that say you need to relax. Xavi's fine. They won last year in La Liga. They won the Super Cup last year with Xavi, his first full season. Yeah, but they also, for 2 years in a row, didn't make it out of the Champions League group stage. And I think if you ask Real Madrid, would you rather win the Champions League or win La Liga? They're going to say we would rather win the Champions League. Barcelona is always, since they've had Messi, always seems like they're the favorite to win La Liga and have more La Liga titles than Real Madrid. But Real Madrid has Champions Leagues. And if I'm being honest, I would take a Champions League trophy over a La Liga trophy or a Copa del Rey trophy or a Super Cup. So that is what Barcelona needs. They need to change that mindset. They need to be a Champions League type of team. And Xavi is not a win at all costs manager. So if they get rid of him, I'm okay with it. Now, obviously, due to the circumstances, and if they had a plan to bring in like a real top manager when he left the season after, I don't know if that hinders those plans. I know that Thomas Tuchel might not be returning to Bayern. Actually, it looks like it's pretty promising that he will not be there at all. So that's a possibility. I don't know how people would feel about that. I don't know what type of energy. I don't know what he would bring to the culture, what he bring to the team. So I'm kind of I don't really have an opinion. At this point, anything is going to happen. I don't trust transfer rumors. I don't trust them saying they're going to sell someone. I'm just waiting for this all to be officially confirmed, because at the end of the day, I would be surprised if Barcelona had the exact same team going into next season and maybe had one random signing. It wouldn't even surprise me with the way they do business. So moving into the Almeria match, what did we learn? Well, we learned a couple things. We learned that Fermin Lopez needs to play, and he needs to play a lot. Now, I couldn't do all this research myself, but I was reading, and I saw the statistic on Twitter last night, and it was from a very reliable source, and it said the only other midfielder from Barcelona that has ever scored 10 goals in a season was Vidal. And Fermin Lopez now has 10 goals, apparently, for Barcelona this season. He doesn't even play that much. He barely starts, and he has 10 goals. Now, again, your success is not directly correlated to how many goals or assists you provide. A lot of it can just be presence alone. Look at Luka Modric, right? But you have to look at it to an extent where, Frenkie de Jong and Pedri, we want to say that they're so talented. Pedri's, one of the best players in the world for his age. He's got all this potential. I feel like as Barcelona fans, a lot of times we try to give a lot of the players the benefit of the doubt and make excuses, which I do sometimes myself, but it kind of comes a point in time where, talent doesn't mean anything unless you're going to be able to consistently play. I mean, there's a lot of players that had all the talent in the world and it didn't work out. I mean, look at what happened to Eden Hazard when he went to Real Madrid. One of the most talented players of this generation, one of the best players of this generation. He did nothing at Real Madrid because he was lazy, didn't train hard, and he was always injured. I mean, Pedri has all the talent in the world to be a top midfielder ever, and it's just not working right now. And again, you can blame Barcelona a lot of it for terrible training and managing their injury situation and making sure they're working with physical therapists and trainers and getting the best rehabilitation and everything related to that, but he's always injured and he doesn't look like he's himself. He's kind of lazy. He always looks gassed. Every time this season he gets on the pitch, he looks like he's tired. Anytime he gets touched or fouled or falls, I think he's going to break his ankle. He's like walking glass. It's crazy. And to be honest, if he continues this for another year or two, it doesn't matter how much potential he has or how good he can be. He's going to be 22, 23. You need consistency. Look at Fermin Lopez. He's the only player, and he's a midfielder that is shooting. He had like 3 shots on target, great header, nice left foot goal. He had another nice shot with his left foot. I mean, you can't even get your 2 forwards, Ferran Torres and Lewandowski, can't even get a shot, but your midfielder has all your shots. Again, he's not the same player as Pedri and Frenkie de Jong, but come on. I mean, he's way less experienced. He's newer to the club. He rarely starts, and he's got 10 goals. Frenkie de Jong doesn't have 10 goals in his entire Barcelona career, basically. Here's something else I want to say about Frenkie. As much as, I love Frenkie de Jong. I think he's my favorite player in the world. I admire the way he plays, his skill, his ability. I admire his ability on the ball, his quickness, his ability to turn in and out of pressure. But for several years, Barca had him and Busquets. Busquets was able to play that real holding center defensive midfielding role, whereas Frenkie de Jong didn't have to play that, where he's found himself this season a lot having to play, but Barcelona still didn't have that much success. I mean, yeah, they won La Liga last year, they won the Super Cup. But again, Real Madrid was kind of down last year. They weren't as good as they were this year. And then Barcelona also, though, for 2 years, didn't make it out of the Champions League group stage. I want Champions League success. I don't care as much about domestic success. Barcelona needs to prove that they're an elite European club, not an elite Spanish club. I don't understand how we can keep cutting Frenkie and Pedri all this slack when they had several years to play in their comfortable position when Sergio Busquets was with the club. So again, I get it. I would not be opposed to selling one of those 2 players because at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of money. And I'm not saying they're holding Barcelona back, but them leaving isn't going to hold them back either. I don't think Barcelona is going to be less successful if they lose Frenkie de Jong or Pedri for that matter. Barcelona is down, 14 points from Real Madrid in La Liga. You're telling me next season, if they lose one of those 2 players, that they're going to be any worse off than that? I don't think so. That's my opinion on that whole situation. I like Fermin Lopez a lot. He gives it his all. Him and Lamine Yamal, 2 of the youngest players on the pitch, were the 2 best players on the pitch. Lewandowski is just toast. He's done. And he's getting what? $32 million for his salary next season and then $26 million the season after. I don't understand how this is even a thing. Mbappe, the best player in the world, is going to be making like $15 million, I think, at Real Madrid next season. And we have someone that's 11 years older than Mbappe, that's a shell of himself, that's old, that's lazy, that has a bad attitude, and you're going to pay him 32 million euros. That dude needs to get out of the club. And at a bare minimum, if he wants to stay at the club so bad, then take a pay cut. Ferran Torres is another one. He's just absolutely useless on the pitch. He needs to get out of there. Joao Felix, honestly, he's got a bad attitude too, and he's lazy. He comes on late in the second half, and he starts causing problems. He's like elbowing players. He's grabbing the ball, and he does an intentional handball. He's talking back at the ref and the other players like, dude, you're a bench player at Barcelona, and you're on loan. What are you doing? Get him out of there. Honestly, I thought I liked Joao Felix, and yeah, he's got potential, but he's not a real left winger. He's not scoring us goals. Get him out of there. Barcelona can't keep hanging on to these players. Just move on. And just rebuild some of these positions because they're not a Champions League threat next season, most likely. Until they can figure out the right culture, the right tactics, it doesn't matter if you bring in Kimmich, Zubamendi, Bernardo Silva, Nico Williams, and Xavi Simons. It doesn't matter if you brought in all of them. Nothing's going to change without the right culture, with the right tactics. So that's what matters. The defense was embarrassing yesterday. The fact that Almeria didn't have 2 goals was crazy. Barcelona was lucky to win. They should have lost or tied, honestly. This is a lot of information. This is how I feel personally about some of these situations we're dealing with our players, with Xavi. It's a very, very strange time. And there's still, what are we doing with the big three, with Frenkie, with Arujo, with Rafinha? I have no idea. I think they're all going to stay. That's how I feel. I don't think anything major is going to happen next season. I also recently just read that Nico Williams is not very likely to come to Barcelona. A lot of these rumors, they're rumors. Are they true? Are they not? We have no idea. These are my thoughts. If you disagree, let me know what you guys think down below. I'm interested to see what you guys think, if Barcelona could be successful, or would they be any worse off realistically without Pedri or Frenkie de Jong? And then what are your thoughts about Xavi and him potentially getting sacked over these comments? I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching. And if you guys have made it this far, thanks for sticking around and watching. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel, and I hope to see you guys back here next time on the G Red Show.